Welcome to 5 Round MMA. We have a great show. We have Scott Zerr from Maximum Fighting Championship. We cover World Series of Fighting. We preview UFC on FS1. Please welcome Alex Ramirez and Albert Cita.
Thank you very much. Our producer, Gabriel Cita, got a lot going on today. Interview, recap of World Series of Fighting from Saturday, preview of UFC Fight Night. I guess they're calling it Fight Night, but we'll get to that a little later on. As for right now, I guess I'm going to see the headlines.
So let's start off with War Machine tweeting out some improper tweets, and then
I haven't read the tweets myself, but I'm pretty sure you can't really.
Yeah, it was a little insensitive.
I don't want to get too much into it because I think at the end of the day, people are just too sensitive. But with that said, I think there's one thing that I think every organization can do to fix this problem, and that's do something that the
Don't
NBA
hire a War Machine to fight.
or that too, the NBA, the NFL, the NHL will have, and it's called something called a policy. Dana White, write that down. A policy.
Well, Bjorn Rebney.
Yeah, well, but I'm saying Dana White has also gotten to that problem too. But if you have a policy instated saying that if you do this, this, and that, this is the punishment, this is the thing, then it's there. Like, you can wipe your hands with it. If these incidents happen, guess what? Here's the punishment. It was on the policy. There you go. We move on with it.
Yeah, I think what kind of sucks too. Obviously the comments were uncalled for, but I think a lot of people are saying, well, it's War Machine.
Yeah.
Well, what do you expect from this guy? This guy was in jail. He did pornos for a living.
He changed his name
to War Machine.
So
it's like you can't really. Hopefully, I think nobody's taking him seriously anyway. So,
yeah.
But it is kind of a black eye on Bellator because they brought this guy and they hyped him up, and obviously this is.
But like I said, like a policy would change this, and at the end of the day, like Bjorn said, he's a human. He's not some kind of product or whatever. So.
Well, that's the thing. Bjorn Rebney is actually getting a lot of heat because what is the punishment for War Machine? Is it just a slap in the wrist? And that's what people are.
Well, that's why you have to
complaining.
have a policy.
And then that goes into the policy.
And this is kind of new territory for Bellator. They're expanding more, so obviously you get more fighters, more high-profile fighters, bigger personalities. This is going to come out. I mean, UFC's been doing this stuff for a long time now. So this is basically new territory for Bellator, and then obviously we're seeing now how they're handling it. So I think they have a learning curve to go for.
So next breaking news, we were there live at World Series of Fighting, and Brett Rogers, I was able to take a picture of him making his entrance there at World Series of Fighting. He has signed with World Series of Fighting.
He actually retweeted us telling us that he signed with the World Series of Fighting.
Last fought in Bellator, got in some legal troubles, was released from his contract.
Do you guys see him being the World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion?
No.
I can't even name, other than Ray Sefo.
Whoa. See, it's kind of weird because I think Rumble Johnson is the #1 contender.
No, you're talking about light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Or Arlovsky. But here, Brett Rogers already beat Arlovsky.
So, it's a big...
It's a paycheck for Rogers, and it's a name for World Series of Fighting, which at the early stages they need now. So
speaking about signings, though, we got...
Oh, so then the other breaking news, we got an exclusive from Daryl Montague's actual manager. Daryl Montague, Steve Lara. Daryl Montague actually signed with the UFC and is slated to fight John Dodson.
One thing, a long time coming. Really happy for Daryl, local Southern California fighter.
Yes,
but also is getting a very big, tough test with John Dodson.
What a way to...
Welcome to the UFC, basically, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
But I mean, like Daryl Montague has fought top contenders that are in the UFC right now.
Well, his last loss was to Ian McCall. Yeah. Since then, he's gone like a 3 or 4 fight winning streak. But his last loss was to Ian McCall, and I mean, I don't think anybody, can say that. I mean, getting beat by Ian McCall isn't like a bad thing.
Yeah. Long time coming. Congratulations and tough test. Welcome to the UFC.
Yeah.
I think if he does win, though, I think title shot because John Dodson was a former contender. So
I think that would be perfect for Daryl Montague versus Ian McCall for the #1 contender.
Yeah, I think the rubber match should be.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's it for latest news and headlines.
That's it. All right. So stick around, guys. We have an interview with Maximum Fighting Championship Media and Fighter Relations Head Scott Zerr. Stick around.
Please visit FiveRoundMMA.com on our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. FiveRoundMMA.com.
Honey Badger pre-workout energy drinks gives you the energy you need to do the extra rep, to get the extra set in. No shakes, no jitters, just pure energy. Find out for yourself at drinkhoney.badger.com. Drink fearless, fight fearless.
Drink fearless, fight fearless. In this corner, brought to you by Honey Badger, we have MFC Director of Media and Fighter Relations, Scott Zerr.
Hey, Scott, this is Albert Cita. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you guys doing today?
And for our first question, for the audience members that don't know what MFC is, can you let us know what is the Maximum Fighting Championship?
I sure can. We're actually one of the longest-running shows in the world. We've been around since 2000, on a consistent basis, which makes us probably right up there in the top 3 in the world as far as longest-running, prominent shows. And we're obviously the largest show, therefore, in Canada, the only promotion in Canada that runs on live television with our great partners at Access TV Fights. And we are also available in TV on Canada, on TSN and the Fight Network. So, to top all of that off, I think we've got one of the best fighter rosters in all the world as well. We a lot of people put us top 5, top 3 in the world, and I think that's because of the great fighter roster that we've put together, which is a credit to all the young guys on our roster as they come to fight. A couple of years ago, we got tired of watching the same old style of MMA, and that's, wrestle, take the guy down, sit on him, lay on him, whatever you want to call it. And we've really put our mind into putting the fight, putting FIGHT into mixed martial arts.
Yeah, hey Scott, it's Alex Ramirez here. I want to switch the question a little bit towards you. How long have you been with the company, and have you always had the position of media and fighter relations?
Well, I have been with the company since the start, since actually MFC 2. And I started off as a ringside photographer, went to a sort of a guest columnist on the website, to the main writer for the website, to eventually handling the most of the public relations, and then probably around MFC 13 or 14, took over as media relations and fighter relations, which puts me a lot more front and center dealing with the fighters, not only booking interviews and making sure that they've got all of their media obligations in line, but handling all of our relations with our television partners at Access TV, a little bit of the matchmaking, a little bit of dealing with the commissions wherever we are. So it's really sort of a bit of a catch-all position, which is something I really enjoy because it gets me a taste of everything.
So like that, obviously with the fighter relations, you deal with a lot of different personalities. Is that kind of difficult sometimes? Because these fighters go through certain routines and like things a certain way. Do you find like a little road bumps here and there, try and get a card together, try and get interviews scheduled and stuff like that?
I wouldn't say it's difficult. I would say it's challenging. I don't know if there's a fine line in between there somewhere, but I guess what helps me out with that is I spent 13 years as a sports reporter for a daily publication in Canada, and that put me in line with a lot of different personalities, whether you're talking about owners of teams and then general managers, coaches, 24-man rosters, 48-man rosters. So you really, and men's and women's sports are very different too, right? So at the college level, it's very different to cover men's football from women's volleyball. So, that really sort of got me in tune with being able to deal with all kinds of different personalities. And, even still to this day, I mean, look at the card that's coming up, MFC 38 on October 4th. We're going to have 22 guys on the show, and I guarantee you it's 22 different personalities and guys who are responsive to emails, guys who don't check emails for a week, guys who love to text, guys who love to Twitter, guys who understand that when I tell them they need to be there at 2, they show up at 2, not 2:20, that kind of stuff, right? So, and again, it's not difficult. It's just part of the challenge. That's also what makes it, inspiring to be there too.
Sticking with that October card, MFC 38, you actually have 2 title fights in that card. Can you let us know more about those 4 fighters in particular?
Well, I'm going to tell you something because, I like you guys, and it's Monday afternoon, so I'm going to let you in on a little bit of, not so secret anymore, but you'll be the first guys that'll be able to talk about it. Mm-hmm. For the first time in MFC history, we announced today that we're going to have 3 title fights on the October 4th card. Wow. The one that we've already announced was the MFC Bantamweight title, and that's Tito Jones versus Anthony Burchak. And today we've also announced that we're going to have the middleweight championship, which will be Smiling Sam Alvey, who's 20-5. and he's going to take on submission specialist Jason South, who's 10-0. So that's going to be a tremendous middleweight fight. And also announced today that we are going to have the MFC heavyweight title on the line, and it's undefeated Smelino Rama. I think everybody's kind of got to know the Prince over the last year or so. Yeah. And very excited to announce that his opponent, which we sealed up late last week and we announced today, his opponent will be Scott the Bear Barrett, who's 13-3 out of the Black Zillions down in Florida. So, you know what? Like I say, first time in 12 years that we've had 3 titles on the line in one night, and October 4th is just going to be an incredible show.
Well, that's really a stacked card, and I know with the 3 title bites that fight. Are there any other fights on that card that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, that we're going to announce the rest of the card formally, probably within a week or so. But We've already sealed up one of the lightweight fights, and it might be one of the most anticipated rematches in MFC history. Yonatas Novaes, who fights out of Chicago, back a couple of shows ago, he had an absolutely tremendous fight against Kurt the Hurt Southern, who's one of Canada's. I believe he's Canada's best lightweight, and they had just a tremendous fight a couple of shows ago. Southern was all over Novaes for 2 rounds, just dominated him, and then got caught in a Novaes armbar midway through the 3rd round. And so we're going to do that fight one more time. Both guys have been very cool about doing it again, and it will be undisputed that the winner of that fight will get the next shot at the MFC lightweight title in February. So a tremendous amount on the line for those 2 guys, and very deserving.
And then, of course, you guys are based in Canada, and I think the whole MMA world knows that Canadian fans are very educated as far as MMA. As a matter of fact, maybe one of the most educated fans out there. Can you speak on those Canadian fans and your guys' fan base?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're really blessed with the Maximum Fighting Championship that we have a crowd that is incredibly loyal to us. I mean, basically the people that you see that have the best seats in the house, the first 4 to 6 rows on the floor, the ringside area, those people have had those same seats for, I would say, a minimum of 6 years. Probably some of them have even had them for 10 years. Wow. And it's just automatic. We phone them up, tell them we've announced the show, and they say, okay, same seats, I'll take 8. That kind of thing, right? So, and then we've really had a good number of fighters who also have really good followings, and we pride the fact that these guys, bring a lot of fans with them. And then I think the major part out of all of it is just brand loyalty. I mean, there are a lot of brands of MMA out there, but there is something about the MFC brand that keeps bringing people back, and I think it's the caliber of shows. There's all kinds of shows out there, but there's very, very few shows who can bring the level of competition. When I tell you guys that it's Sam Alvey against Jason South, between those 2 guys, there's 30 career wins. Scott Barrett's got 13 wins. Smelino Rama, 6-0, was named Fight Matrix's Rookie of the Year for 2012. Anthony Burchak, top 50 in the world in bantamweight, and is just an incredible young fighter. I mean, there aren't many shows outside of the biggest show, but within the top 3 to 5 shows, I'm talking worldwide, there's not nobody brings fight cards like that. Some fight cards will have one good main event, maybe they might have another fight buried somewhere, but there's not shows anywhere else in the world that brings you a stacked lineup like that every single time.
Yeah, I think consistency is one of the things that fans look for in companies. Are they consistently putting on great shows, and they'll know for sure once they get their ticket, they're going to get their money's worth.
Well, I think that's why we've been around for 12 years too, right? I mean, if fans get tired of the product, it's easy for them to say they're not happy because they just don't buy a ticket, or the television ratings aren't there, or they just don't want to come anymore. And we're just very, very happy the fact that the fans keep coming and they keep wanting more shows. And when the business situations are right, we're going to bring you more shows. We've consistently brought 4 shows a year, and we're not happy with that. We want to bring 5 or 6 a year. So that if the situations are right next year, I think you're going to see a big increase in the number of shows we're doing.
Oh, well. I know, we'll talk about aesthetically. I know, especially in America, when you ask fans about MMA, you think of a cage. But you guys actually use a ring. Is that something like it looks better aesthetically, or is there a particular reason why you guys fight in a cage fight in a ring instead of a cage?
It's kind of both reasons. There's the reason, the aesthetic reason is certainly there. It does look better for the live audience, because I think you've seen a lot of other shows that do theirs in a cage. And if you're sitting in row 20, you end up watching the whole night on a big screen off the wall somewhere,
true,
right? Yeah. And it's no fun. And I think also, too, that the home audience that's watching it on TV can also see a lot better. There's not that fence in the way, if it goes to the ground, or even if it's in the middle of a stand-up, you're looking through ropes as opposed to, fencing kind of thing, right? And I think also one of the major reasons was because the MFC was a front runner, was really a pioneer in Canada in the sport. We were the first show outside of Quebec to be fully legally licensed and sanctioned to bring shows. And I think part of the reason that came off the way it did was because Mark Pavlich, the owner of the show, accentuated the fact that the fights are in a ring. That makes it a sport. It's not in a cage where, back 10, 12 years ago, you had politicians saying, oh, this is human cockfighting and this is bare knuckle this and no holds barred and all that. Well, we never stated anything along those lines. This is the ultimate combat sport, and it's in a ring because in a ring, that's where sports take place. And that pushed the politicians to say, yeah, you know what? I've seen other sports in a ring. This is a sport. It's not barbaric. It's actual athletic competition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then last question before we let you go. Social media is a huge part of any business these days, and you guys are very active when it comes to social media. Can you tell us about how that plays into your guys' company and the way you promote and maybe interact with the fans more?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of everyday life now, right? I mean, I don't subscribe to a newspaper. I get my news off Twitter, whether I follow CNN or the local papers or whatever, right? And, I think a lot of people are that way too. To interact with your fans, of course. It's huge to have that sort of, it's not one-on-one, but it is. You almost feel like this is my news feed, right? Whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr or Pinterest or whatever, right? This is the news that I want. So it does have that feel of one-on-one bringing the news right to you. But I think another big aspect of it is it's really helped us gain a lot more MMA media and mainstream media attention because we're so active that means that, there are all kinds of the very best MMA media following us because we bring the news. We don't hide news. We don't, sugarcoat anything. It's here it is. It's on our website. Go check it out. Or, and it's also a great way for the fans to follow because they pick their certain MMA radio shows, MMA websites, mainstream papers that they follow, and our news is there. So it's reaching fans that way too. But it's huge. And you know what? For a lot of the fighters that are catching on to it too, it's really great. I mean, Anthony Burchak is the absolute king of social media when it comes to fighters, right? Sam Alvey's really good at it too, and there's other guys that are really starting to get the hang of it, and they know because that's a way for them to reach their fans to tell them when and where they're fighting and how they're training, and it's also a great way to connect with your sponsors and stuff too, right? So, it's just an all-around sort of part of the business now that I think you can't overlook. I mean, I enjoy it. It's just a fun way to kind of reach out to people. So I have a difficult time keeping it to 140 characters, though. That's my problem. So I'm long-winded. I'm used to writing, for long newspaper articles or press releases or stuff, right? So I'm used to giving lots of details instead of trying to cut it down to 140 characters.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah.
But it's it's a must nowadays, right? I mean, it's great for I can connect with MMA media, I can connect with mainstream media, I can get in touch with my fighters, I can let fighters know what they're doing, I can let the fans know what's going on. Like we'll tweet out that we're doing this interview today. We'll tweet out that Mark Pavlich is doing an interview next week, or whatever the case is, right? And it gets the fans in touch with the fighters, it gets the fans in touch with us, and it not only does it help promote us and our fighters, but it also helps promote our media, partners like yourselves that, hey, they're taking an interest in MFC. If you're a fan, you should tune in too.
Yeah, it's almost like controlling your own destiny, right? I mean,
in a way, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot like that, and I just, it's something that we have to be in touch with. It's why we do a press conference 2 days before the fight, because we want the fans the fans and the media to see our guys up close, and we've always been big believers, of getting hype for the fights. It's maybe if you're in a different market, or if you're in a different part of the world or whatever, you can just say, hey, we're having a fight card, and people will show up. It doesn't work like that in anywhere really in North America. You have to lead the people and lead the media to your event. So we have to do social media and press conferences and open training sessions and public weigh-ins and things like that, or else there's no point doing it because nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, hey Scott, it's great stuff. I want to thank you again for being on the show, man. Awesome interview, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
No problem, guys. I hope everybody who's able to get to our show live on October 4th in Edmonton, Alberta at the Shaw Conference Center can make it out. And if you can't, it's going to be 10 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Pacific time on October 4th, MFC 38 on Access TV Fights. So I hope everybody tunes in, because with 3 title fights, you're bound to see something you like. I guarantee it.
A ton of action, great stuff like that. Yeah, make sure you guys follow MaximumFighting.com, and also, like we just said it earlier, MFC is constantly active on all social aspects of social media, so check them out there. And Scott, thank you very much.
Hey guys, appreciate the time, and we'll do it again soon.
All right,
definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
This edition of 5 Round MMA is brought to you by Rosal Records, bringing you the best in music and audio engineering. Make sure to check out rosalrecords.com. This edition of 5 Round MMA is brought to you by Top Rated MMA, 100% American-made MMA apparel, topratedmma.com.
We have an action-packed segment. We're going to recap World Series of Fighting 4, and we're going to talk UFC on FS1. And then, but first of all, let's cover our survey. We have
last week, right?
From last week, we have results for would you pay for the Tito Ortiz versus Rampage Jackson pay-per-view.
Survey says
78% of the people said no, they will not pay to watch the pay-per-view.
And that's not surprising.
Looks like they got to stack the undercard pretty big time, huh? Get some the viewership buys up.
Yeah, so words on the street is Pat Curran's already going to get booked for it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, book the good guys.
So is there anything a World Series of Fighting 4 that stood out?
Oh, well,
before
we get into the card, I like to thank World Series of Fighting for having us there.
Live.
We were there live. We were doing live updates and also scoring each fight every round, at the end of every round. So I like to thank them for having us. But with that said, there is a couple of fights that we want to highlight, maybe bring up a couple of fighters.
Well, for me, like I don't want to open up like a can of worms, but I know like the Black Zans had a good night last night.
I wouldn't say
Saturday,
good.
but,
I would say okay.
But the thing that struck me, I know because like that camp gets a lot of criticism. But what are the first thing that the Spong say after his win? Oh, so what was the game plan? I didn't have a game plan. Great camping, great coaching from Black Zillions. I thought.
Well, just look at George Santiago. George Santiago lost as well, and he was from the Black Zillions as well. So
yeah,
it's a rough place to be right now. That's all I have to say. It's a rough place.
I didn't have a game plan.
So, is there any fights that stood out to you, Albert?
Real quick, if we just want to start from the preliminaries and then we'll work our way up.
Yeah.
On the preliminaries, the only reason I want to bring up this fight was because it was pretty entertaining. I really don't want to highlight any of the fighters. I was just entertaining, and that was the Robles what's her name? Papazina?
Yeah.
Papazina's fight?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
It was actually a really
entertaining fight. If you guys weren't able to see it because it was in the preliminary card, I think you should go back and check it out. It was an entertaining fight. But other than that, that's it. Other than that, there wasn't really much in the preliminary card other than George Santiago, but sadly he lost again. And even though Jared
on that power
bomb.
Even
though Jared Harris is a known fighter as well, I think he didn't show that he's still relevant.
But right after the fight, Gerald Harris said he broke his hand.
Oh, so it was his hand broken. That could explain a lot because he did start off good, but ended kind of melatonin-ish to me.
Yeah, so he supposedly broke his hand in the first round.
Wow.
And he kind of tried to, use all the points he gained in the first and second round because he got that point deduction or
that makes a lot more sense.
Santiago got the point deduction for holding on to the cage front on the power bomb.
Yeah.
So
and then to move on to the main card, just to touch on Tyson Griffin.
he looks like
he
his
looked
best days are behind him.
Yeah.
Early stoppage though, but yeah.
But at first it kind of seemed like, hey, maybe Tyson Griffin's back.
He looked out of shape too to me. Didn't he look out of shape?
A little bit, but he had a
fought
good
155. That's what sucks. I mean, I think Jones Roy Jr. said it best. I mean, if you keep bouncing around weight, you end up like that. And that's it. And that's what happened. He kept bouncing around weights, and he couldn't find.
He had good foot movement.
Yeah,
he had good.
I think his
head
best
Yeah,
movement
it was a
he
stoppage,
did
but I
look
agree with
out of shape.
I agree with Alex. I think his best days are behind him.
I thought
sadly.
personally the field goal moment of the night was Nick Newell.
Yeah, I think everybody likes to see those type of stories.
The arena was on their feet after his.
Oh, yeah.
they were
Yeah.
standing, give him a standing ovation.
It
And then
was a great moment.
the Wounded Warriors probably gave him a flag. That was,
it was emotional. I mean,
Yeah, I felt Nick Newell was
it was
a
an
little
awesome.
emotional.
It was an awesome story, and I think he fought well. I think he showed everybody. I mean, it was an amazing submission that he was able to submit his opponent, especially with one hand. And I mean, I really do think they should give him more talent to fight, but at the same time, let's not forget the adversity he had to face to get to where he was at.
Yeah.
But he does need to.
That adversity puts him ahead of I think everybody mentally already. I
Yeah.
think already.
Yeah, but
because he had to overcome so much just to get this level, so he might have an advantage over a lot of fighters.
Yeah, but I really hope that they don't keep him in that mid card level and actually
think they will.
give him a tough opponent for he can really show who he is.
Yeah.
And then the next one was
Well,
Ray Seffel.
Put on a show. I thought.
Yeah, I thought Ray Seffel was doing so good
So did I.
until he got caught.
Those leg kicks are doing work.
That spinning back kick.
Yeah,
in the
I was
third
really
round, oh my
hoping that
God.
he was going to be more like keep calm and pick his shots because obviously he was the better striker. But I think he kind of felt the crowd. He felt the high, he got pumped up and
give it to Huckabee too. He's like, you know what, this is my boss, but I'm gonna put on the show. And
yeah.
they did, both of them delivered together. It was a great performance, I thought, for both guys. Ray Seffel was down in retirement, but
Yeah,
I think he entertained the fans.
And
so.
I know you want to talk about someone real quick in the bantamweight division.
Morales.
Oh, Morales. Oh, I thought that was fight of the night. I mean, that was. But from what I heard, Morales actually broke his foot, or he had a problem with his foot.
Yeah.
So the kicks kind of went away in the third round. And it was kind of coasting. But for the most part,
And Heplin is that guy has heart. Yeah. I would have quit in the first round.
To me, it's hard to see someone getting their leg chopped off. Or not chopped off, but leg kicks, than an actual knockout. Like I was like, I can't even look every time there was another leg kick. I could not look. And then plus the bloody mess.
Yeah, it was a bloody mess in there. I mean, it was an awesome fight. If you didn't see it, Guillermo says that he's a prospect to look out for.
Yeah,
I gotta see a couple more fights before I can say anything.
But at this time of the UFC, if you think about basically, how we judge fighters now is like if they're not in the UFC, well, can they compete in the UFC?
Yeah.
And especially right in the bantamweight division is kind of in a weakened state right now.
And I think instead of breaking down the Tyrone Sponge fight, because I think everyone saw it came down to leg kicks. Do you think he met the hype?
No.
Did he make the hype?
I don't think so. I think
the
point
quote at the end got
the
to
point of that fight was to show Tyrone Sponge's skills and that he was going to destroy Angel Deonda.
Yeah, I think that fight did worse for him than good.
Going into the card, the rumor was that the winner of that fight is going to get John Finch, like that's a reward or something.
Yeah.
But that would be a test for Sponge if he can get past John Finch.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially since he's a stand-up and John Finch is incredible wrestler.
Just hope if that does happen, they actually do have a game plan that fight.
Yeah, but Sponge, it was only a second fight, so I mean.
Yeah, I know, but like your second fight, there's one game plan.
I do see the potential, but at the same time, he was supposed to destroy Angel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go on to
Better can't maybe.
UFC on FS1. So
this is the premiere card, right? The new sports network
and a big premiere card at that.
So is there any undercard bouts that stand out for you guys?
There is a couple, but I really want to get into the meat of this show because there is
the meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes of this. I mean, the soup we can drink later, but I really think we really need to eat the.
Albert likes to
skip the appetizer.
Albert likes to. Albert eats his dinner backwards: dessert, entree, and then appetizer. So
it's the way I roll.
So the dessert right now.
What's the dessert?
Well,
Chael Sonnen in his promos, right? That's a dessert.
That's a dessert, and it is delicious. Let me tell you. But before we get to the dessert, let's go backwards. And the only reason I want to bring it up is because he's a Black Zillion. That's Michael Johnson. It'll be interesting to see if the Black Zillions can kind of get this steam rolling.
And Michael Johnson's fighting Joe Lozon.
And find Joe Lozon, who's coming from that freaking vicious fight that he had with.
He's always in a vicious fight, isn't he?
Yeah, no. So that's the only reason I want to bring that one, because we do want to see how that camp. Because I mean, I think it's very interesting how that camp is working. And then if we go past that, Uriah Hall, who I mean was the talk of the town when Ultimate Fighter, but sadly he did not.
Got out wrestled.
He got wrestled and didn't meet the hype. So that'll be an interesting fight to see. I'm not saying that
it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, interesting fight to see. And of course, I don't want to talk about Mount Brown because there's nothing to say there. So let's go to Uriah.
Skip that one.
Uriah Faber, number one contender. Can he keep the number one contendership?
Versus Yuri Alcantara.
And yeah.
The rumor is that nobody wants to fight Yuri.
Yeah, actually,
he's like the Glover Teixeira of the bantamweight division. Like,
exactly.
like all these fights keep coming up. No. Like, who?
And
how
then
good is this guy?
And then Uriah Faber's all like,
But,
you know what? I'll take him.
Yeah, but I always like that. But Uriah Faber, he's always game to fight. Don't ever get that wrong. Despite what people think about, they always give him the title shot.
He's
always game to fight. And so that should be a very. I mean, do not miss this fight. Out of all of them, even though the Shogun and Sonnen fight's gonna be good, this is the one you can't miss, because Shogun Sonnen, there's not really stipulations in there. There's no real. There's nothing that's gonna reform the 205. This one is. So do not miss this fight. And then of course we got
the co-main event.
Then we got how Overeem. We got Overeem. Is he gonna come back?
Is he gonna walk out with this alligator?
Well, more importantly, is he gonna pass the post-fight drug test?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So he fights Travis Brownie.
I think Travis Brownie took more than he can chew.
Well,
but he's been begging for matches like this because he thinks
it's a good test.
That's gonna be interesting. Last time Overeem overlooked an opponent, it was Bigfoot Silva and got knocked out. So
I don't think he's gonna overlook this time, but I think he's gonna go out there to knock out like
Travis Brown.
first round.
He has to.
And I think he can
to stay relevant in this division.
Yeah.
He came in with a lot of hype. I'm gonna win the title.
To get his fight with Junior Dos Santos,
Yeah.
he needs to win this.
And he has a
Also,
big
you're
chance.
picking Cain Velasquez already?
Oh yeah, Cain Velasquez is gonna win.
And he really has a
No
big
questions
chance
asked.
to get the next title shot. He really needs this win. So even though he needs to win even though he had a devastating loss, he can still put himself in the title run. But he needs to win.
A decision win won't help him at all.
No,
he needs a
it
knockout
won't.
win to be back in there.
So then the main event is
to the dessert. This match has nothing to do with 205 division. This match has nothing to do with title shots or anything like that. But it's a very interesting
and it's
fight.
Maurice Shogun Rua versus
Chael because
Sonnen.
Sonnen hates Brazilians and he's fighting one, and he has a couple more Brazilians to fight right after Shogun.
But there hasn't been a lot of beef. I mean, I think they respect each other.
I think the beef has all been said.
Shogun doesn't really talk smack a lot.
Shogun has never been.
But Chael Sonnen really hasn't gone out and said, "Hey, I hate you."
What more can you say than what he said during
mother.
Anderson Silva?
Yeah, true. I mean, like I think Chael Sonnen now is picking his words carefully because people actually assume. Link him with a gimmick, so I think he can't overdo it now. So I think he's picking his shots now. So I think after this, he says he wants Vitor Belfort next. So I think he just lined them all up now.
Yeah, all the Brazilians line him up.
Nogueira wants him next too. So he's booked into 2015 So
basically, yeah,
he's set and done. So he's good.
So let's move on to our picks really quick because I actually signed up with the MMA Victor, and I actually put all the, I made a league on there. So if you go to MMA Victor, you go to 5RoundMMA League. It's free. I did a free league, and you can see our picks on there. So Albert will have his pick. Alex will have a pick. I already did my picks. So let's go to the main card and do our picks. It's a lightweight bout versus it's Joe Lozon versus Michael Johnson.
Lozon.
I actually got the Baxillion Michael Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Lozon's too tough, I think.
He's tough, but I like Michael Johnson for some reason.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason. Then we have a middleweight bout is Uriah Hall versus Josh Howard.
I think Uriah Hall learned from his Ultimate Fighter finale, and he's going to bring it this time, and he's not going to play around. He's going to finish.
Yeah, I think he has more. I think he has more on the line this fight than he did the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Exactly.
So I think he's
totally
going to deliver.
So I think Uriah Hall wins that one as well. The fight that Albert doesn't want to talk about, it's Mike Pyle versus Matt Brown.
I'm going to use my veto. And
okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I've
I've always liked Matt Brown, so I'm going with Matt Brown.
I'll go opposite of you. I'll go Mike Pyle.
Okay.
Then we got the really good fight is bantamweight. It's Uriah Hall versus Yuri Alcantara.
This is a hard one.
It could be a change of the guard almost.
Yeah,
I think so.
I want to go for Yuri, but my gut instinct says Uriah So I'm gonna go Uriah.
I don't think people know who Yudi is. I'm gonna go Yudi. I think he's gonna people are gonna be like, hey, who is that guy? He just beat Uriah. Uriah Faber.
The last time Uriah Faber fought in a known, it was Renan Barao.
And
look at him now. So I think it's gonna play the exact same way. I think a little too much for Faber to handle.
I'm really excited about. It's funny because it's not being mentioned, but I'm really excited about this fight.
Yeah.
Then we have the co-main event heavyweight bout. We have Alistair Overeem versus Travis Brownie.
Overeem has to win this. I mean, his stand-up is way better than Travis Brownie, and I think he knows now that this is the UFC. He's not getting fed opponents that he could demolish really easily. He has to deliver. He has to show up if he wants to even come close to the hype and to stay relevant in the UFC heavyweight division.
Yeah, I got Overeem in the first.
I think if he really learned his lesson from Bigfoot, he will go out there and just, in I would say less than a minute, knock out Travis Brownie. So I go Overeem. Then we have the main event. We have a light heavyweight bout. Maurice Shogun Rua versus Chell, the American Gangster.
Well, Shogun has been practicing his stand-up with Freddie Roach, and he's been improving on that. But
that's dangerous. Shogun improving his stand-up.
But at the end of the day, I think Chael Sonnen will put him on his back, and it's going to be a long day for Shogun. I really do think so. So I'm going with Chael Sonnen.
Shogun was able to scramble away from Dan Henderson a couple times. But
we're talking about two completely different wrestling styles as far as MMA. How many times have you seen Dan Henderson set up a good shot?
Well, you never needed to.
No, yeah, that's why.
When you have the H-bomb, you don't need to.
I don't know. I think I'm going with Shogun this one just because his stand-up's a little more refined. So.
I think so too. I think
and jiu-jitsu might come into practice on the ground.
Yeah,
and Chael Sonnen obviously is susceptible to jiu-jitsu. So.
And I think Maurice Shogun will win this fight too. I mean, Chael Sonnen, unless it becomes a specifically wrestling match, I can see Sonnen winning. But the jiu-jitsu, the stand-up, it's all Shogun Rua.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see who prevails this next Saturday.
Yeah, and then
and what's our survey question of this week?
I think we'll stick to the theme. We had our interview earlier with Scott Zerr. We asked him a question about aesthetically what looks better, a cage or a ring. So
we want to ask the fans what do they prefer, watching a MMA fight in a ring or in a cage? That's pretty much simple. We'll put up the question on MMA Victor on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, so participate, and you might win a prize from us. So is that for today?
Yeah, that's it for today.
All right, I think it's a great show, guys. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at FiveRoundMMA. Subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube. We're also on Facebook, so follow us there. We're also on Instagram, so like our photos there. And always be sure to check out FiveRoundMMA.com for daily headlines, weekly articles, and commentaries. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors, Honey Badger Performance Energy Drinks, drinkhoneyBadger.com, the Madhouse Clothing Line. Go shop themadhouse.com and follow them on Twitter at the Madhouse MMA. A big thank you to Top Rated MMA, makers of 100% American-made MMA apparel. Go shop their stuff at topratedmma.com and follow them on Twitter at topratedmma. A big thank you to Scott Zerr of Maximum Fighting Championships. MFC 38 takes in October. 3 title fights. So make sure to follow the website, MaximumFighting.com. I'll bring some final words.
Yeah, if you guys haven't even Googled that, please do. Google, Maximum Fighting Championship. It's supposed to be a big fight card. I mean, it's
the news here. 3 title fights.
So it's worth checking out. So at least Google it because I think it's worth it.
And they'll be on TV.
And you like what you see.
Yeah. So real quick, just like to thank our producer Guillermo Cita, our technicians out there, Big Game and Ollie the Trolley, our sound engineer Razzle with Razzle Records.
RazzleRecords.com.
Yeah, and thank everybody for listening.
The cream of the crop.